Good evening. My name is Mike. I'm the program director at Farm Table. You should be seeing me and Nancy on your screen. Nancy will be our teacher tonight. And it's good to have you here tonight on this lovely May evening for Herbal Allies for these times. Again, my name is Mike, the program director at Farm Table, and our mission is to build local food culture. And we do that through offering these kinds of classes, offering lots of classes on local food. And then, of course, we have a local foods restaurant, and we have an art gallery as well. And our goal is really to rekindle connections between all of us and local food, local farmers, and the land, and protecting that land in the way that people farm. So one of the farmers that we work with is here, Nancy. We have some of her products in our retail section of our restaurant. She lives very close to Amory and is part of the community here. So thanks for being here, everyone. And Nancy, thank you in the midst of a very busy time of year for teaching.
I want to say thank you for being here. And one of the questions I have is what is the most important for you to get out of tonight? Knowing based on what you know the class is going to be about, because I want to write that down. I want to try to address that for people. And we'll be going through, I have an online, I have a list of things we're going through, and after each section I'm going to stop, so if you have questions you can ask, and I'll try to leave time for questions at the end too. But I guess I'll say a little bit about myself. I'm a farmer, I'm an herbalist, I'm a plant medicine maker. I have an associate's degree in Western clinical herbalism, so we don't just willy-nilly throw anything together. I have a certified organic medicinal herb farm. We grow over 50 kinds of herbs and harvest another 20 from the land. We're going through big changes this year. Perennial beds we've had for 7 years, got cover crops in the fall. They've all got turned over, and I'll be planting pollinator plants on some of them. And then they'll get another cover crop in the fall, and we've opened up new land that's been in cover crops to start planting this year. So it's kind of a big transition with the land. So right now there's a lot of bare soil, and that's painful for me to look at. But the goal was to cover that with plants, and in between the rows to plant cover crops, and just keep building soil. Building soil is a huge part of healthy plants. So I would like to ask now, let me know what you'd hope to get out of tonight. What's the most important thing for you you'd like to go away with, or what you're most interested in? And if you have any experience with herbs, and if we can keep it at, there doesn't look like there's very many people yet, but keep it to 30 seconds or 45 seconds.
Yeah, so folks, I've got a list of people across the top of my screen, so I could maybe just go in order, and I'll call on you. If you want to unmute yourself, you can say your name, where you're from, and then just what a sentence or two about what you most hope to get out of this. Or you could also type it in the chat box and I'll read it out to everybody. But Jen Birma, you're the first person on my screen. If you want to say a word, feel free.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I am actually very, very excited to be here. Kathy, who's also on here, has been telling me about Nancy forever. And it's just never worked out for us to go in, and 2 people told me to come to this class. And I have no idea what I want to learn, but I recently started in an herbalist program, and I'm just so excited for information. So whatever you offer up, I'm sure it is exactly what I need to hear today. So thank you.
Okay. Yeah,
Great.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Jen. And I see Peggy's iPad next.
Hi, Peggy.
Peggy, there you go.
Hi. Yeah, hi. I've been dabbling with this for a couple years, and I'm really interested in growing more herbs, and especially learning more about medicinal herbs. So I'm really interested in not only the plants that you're going to highlight, but then how to harvest, how to use them. As far as how we can process them, I guess that's my next big step, because I've been growing them, and then I use some for teas, which is great, but I would like to know more about that process.
Okay.
That's all.
Thanks, Peggy.
Thank you.
Nikki Peters, I see you next. Please.
Hi there. Hi, everybody.
Bye.
I am excited to be here. I just joined kind of late after giving a call yesterday to Nancy, and I think you just mentioned real quick, you're like, I'm busy, but I'm doing this class. And so I looked up your website, Nancy, and I jumped on. So I'm happy to be here and glad to be learning from you. I've been treated by an herbalist in the past, and it was fantastic. I'm mostly looking forward to learning about what types of possible herbalist cures do we have for COVID or also for the mRNA vaccine. So I'm interested. I've learned about pine needles recently. And I have that's just some specific questions that I have just as an aside. Maybe you can work into whatever you're going to share tonight. But I'm excited to listen and learn. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Nikki. So Kathy.
Hey, Kathy.
Hi. Well, I'm just going to do this once. So here,
Aw, meow.
my cat loves Zoom calls, I tell you guys, and she's like a little furnace. So I'm practically in my bathing suit here. So he will be joining us. And I've known Nancy for a time, and I've used some of her tinctures. I've just been learning what I can use with my pets. Whitney is actually going to be 22 in August. So she has some arthritis. And so Nancy, that's one thing I would just like a little more info about is what you sell to veterinarians. And then I'm just most interested, I have a gardening business and people are always asking me about herbs and what they can grow. So I'm loving the idea of having a little cheat sheet that I can bring to people who are wanting to grow more herbs in their garden. And I'm just thrilled to be here. Thanks.
Great. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, guys.
Good to have you, Kathy. Thanks. Ann Murphy.
Hi, everybody. It's so good to be here. Hi, Nancy. Hey, Kathy.
Ann.
Hi, Josie. There's a couple of people in this small space that I know, so it's good to see some familiar faces. Really, I'm just here as someone who has just really benefited from Nancy's farming and her craft in the herbal realm, and so I just want to deepen my understanding a little bit of the method and the ethics behind it. And then from a personal kind of professional standpoint, I'm just really curious of what kind of herbs or offerings, teas, or whatever that you would suggest for grief and trauma. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Josephine, please.
Hello. I just got home from work, so my cat is like, love me. But I assume we're kind of saying why we're wanting to do this. Is that right? Okay. Yeah, I've been kind of exploring herbalism and, just foraging and whatnot in this area for a couple years, but there's just a lot of information to gather, and to actually have it stick in my brain is a different thing. So I feel like of the plants that were listed as ones we're going to go over, I was like, I feel like I don't know a lot about some of those, especially like Echinacea and like I grew up in South Dakota, and so some of these are like plants that grow in the prairie, but I don't know what to do with them really. So I'm excited about that. So
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Hi.
And I don't know, SNK it says here, if you want to introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Nellie. So that's the N.
Nellie. Hello. Oh, I didn't recognize you.
Yeah, well, here I am, and here's
Aw.
I haven't met Havala yet, but here she is.
Hi, Havala.
Yeah. We'll kind of jump in and out with video just because of hobbies care. But yeah, I have been learning about herbs since meeting Nancy many years ago. And my husband and I have an interest to do more with herbs as a long-term goal for our farm. We have a vegetable farm in Shell Rock, Iowa. And yeah, I can't glean enough information. So this is just going to be a really great overview again of some herbs we're already growing. And I just would like a lot of you want to expand my knowledge on what these plants are used for, and yeah, how to turn them into medicine to share with our family and to share with other people. So it's an amazing field.
Thanks, Nellie.
Good to see you, Nellie.
And I believe Jane, if you want to say a few words, is next. Jane, would you like to say something or type something in the chat box? Okay, well, we could come back to you, Jane, if you'd like to say, oh, there, are you off? Are you ready now? I don't think so. Okay. All right, Nancy, I think that's all of us for now.
Okay. So I'm going to turn on the PowerPoint, but you'll still see me also. And thank you for all the information, that you put out there about what you'd like to know. Some of it I don't have answers for, but some of it I do. So I'm just going to flip this on. Let me see. Okay, can everyone see that? Okay, so I'm just going to give you this is an outline, how I want to go through this evening. And after each section, I want to stop so you can ask questions. And first, I'm going to talk about some herbal terminology. There's a lot of words that are applied to herbs that it'd be helpful if you knew them, just like an expectorant or a demulcent or a diaphoretic, or that can be helpful. And then I'll talk about the herbs that can support our health during these times, and then how to grow and harvest the herbs, and how to use them in daily life. And then harvesting, drying, and garbling. Garbling is the process of stripping the dried leaves and stems away from the plant. And then I'll talk about plant extract making. If there's time, I can talk about making oils. It's really simple. There's a lot. I think I have 48 slides, and I want to have plenty of time for you to ask questions in between sections. So if I'm going too fast, let me know. We can always go back after I get through one section. But I also want to say that herbalism is a lifelong study. I'll keep learning the rest of my life. Some of you may know some things that I don't know, and I'm always learning about the plants. And it's an honor to work with them. I believe that, we're part plant. We are natural, just like the plants. Okay, so we're going to go to herbal terminology. We're going to jump right in. Well, I'm trying to jump. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so an adaptogen, maybe many of you have heard of this. This is a category of herbs that protect us from stress and disease. So life is full of stressors, ups and downs, emotional, spiritual, physical, and these just help strengthen our body and protect us so that we're less apt to get sick, so that we can stay well. An example, and several of these we'll talk about tonight: Ashwagandha, Astragalus, and holy basil. So you'll get this PowerPoint. So you don't really have to take notes from the PowerPoint. My PowerPoints, I lay a lot out there, but you might want to take some notes that you don't see on here. And then we'll talk about reishi too. There's some misspelling here. It's not reishi, it's reishi. Then there's analgesics, which are pain relieving herbs. Some examples of those could be white willow bark, St. John's wort, arnica, meadowsweet. There's antibacterial, destroys or stops bacterial growth, garlic, ginger, elderberry, boneset. There's just a ton of them. Even onions, anti-inflammatories, they control inflammation. So turmeric, white willow bark, meadowsweet, even calendula, even chamomile. Antimicrobials, they can help the body to destroy or resist germs and bacteria. And again, that's elderberry, boneset, garlic, ginger. There's just a whole slew of them. Antivirals, that's pretty much speaks for itself. It's elderberry, thyme, boneset, again, ginger and garlic. Antioxidants, which can prevent or inhibit oxidation that can cause cell damage and speed up early aging and cause illness. Some of those are ginkgo biloba, lion's mane, hawthorn. Then there's astringent, and they help to dry or shrink tissue, to pull things out. You've got plantain, you've got white oak bark, you've got any of the barks, really. Any of the things with tannins can do that. And carminatives, which help just ease stomach complaints or belly aches. Lemon balm, chamomile, or some of those. Am I going too fast? Is this okay for people? It's okay? All right. And then we have demulcents, which are very soothing. Slippery elm, marshmallow, they're very mucilaginous, very slippery. So, you know, they could be good for constipation, for GI upsets, for hacking coughs. I'll get into more of this later. I'm just laying out some of these terminologies, so when we're talking about the herbs, you'll have heard them a little bit previous. So diaphoretic, that opens up the pores and lets out heat. So that's looking at catnip, yarrow, boneset. An expectorant, that's help expectorate things, get mucus up and out. Mullein, Pleurisy Root, Osha, Elecampane. And then febrifuge, which is really similar to a diaphoretic. They help to reduce or relieve a fever. Again, you'd have yarrow, catnip, boneset. A lot of the bitter herbs will do that. Then immune tonics. They just overall strengthen and support our body and can increase strength and tone. And you're looking at a lot of the adaptogens that will do that. Reishi, cordyceps, eleuthero, which is American ginseng, ashwagandha, astragalus. And the immunomodulators, those are herbs that help to modulate, help to balance. They're not, and they're adaptogens, but they're not stimulants. So you'd be looking at reishi, holy basil, ashwagandha. So for people with autoimmune disorders where their body is attacking itself, these help to balance it out, not overstimulate, not understimulate. Nervines, which are very calming. They help with relaxing the body and the mind. You have lemon balm, chamomile, blue vervain, agrimony, milky oats, and then nutritive. They're filled with nutrients that help build the body and nourish the body. Nettles is a fantastic one. And right now, getting nettles is a great thing to be doing. There's a lot of herbs out there to get right now. There's violets, there's chickweed, there's cleavers, roots, if they haven't started to come up through the ground. Yeah, we've just been harvesting the violets and the cleavers today. And seeing other nutrients, marshmallow is a great nutrient. Sedatives, they're a little harder hitting than a nervine. Valerian is a strong one. I never do valerian alone. I feel like it keeps a kind of fuzz on me the next morning. So I always mix it with other nervines or sedatives. But for some people, they can handle straight up valerian. They're more what I would put in the good night's sleep tincture, not so much an ease of mind during the day. Although there's California poppy, there's passion flower. They're kind of fall in between nervine and sedative, and they're okay for the day in smaller doses for me. which actually can help heal and mend, like if even nerve endings from long-term stress and just being frazzled and burnout. Your nerves will physically start to unravel. St. John's wort, is that the right herb? Is it St. John's wort that does that? I'm trying to think of the choker restore the milky oat seed. It'll actually start to heal the physical endings of the nerve. So it's fantastic. And then you also have hawthorn, which is another fantastic tropo-restorative. And vasodilators, they help open up blood vessels. So like ginkgo biloba, butcher's broom, horse chestnut, lion's mane. Well, not lion's mane so much, gato cola. Okay, so there's a lot of terms, but these are some that we'll run across tonight as the class goes on.
Hey, Nancy.
Yes.
Jen typed in a question, curious if you grow all these herbs. I think you do, but I don't know if you grow all of them.
I grow a lot of them. Let's see, I don't grow reishi, it's a mushroom. I grow, I have a hawthorn tree that my kitty sueño is buried under, but it's only not a year and a half old and it's not giving berries yet. But yes, I do have a lot of them that are mentioned, and I'll have a lot of them at the plant sale this Saturday and Sunday. So if there's some particular, Jan, that you're wondering, just throw it out there and I can let you know. Or if you go on my website, the plant sale, it'll list plants I have. You know, there's a lot of plants I'm not selling, like nettles, motherwort, creeping Charlie, that just grow in the wild. Mullein, that I don't need to grow. They're just there. And plants growing in the wild, I feel the plant medicine is much stronger. You know, the soil hasn't been turned. The microbiome, the mycelium network is really strong. And so those plants are just getting everything you need. Any other questions on that? Okay, so now I'm going to move on to herbs that strengthen and support our immune system. There's ashwagandha. I do grow that. It's the first year root you harvest. It won't overwinter. So, you know, we grow it every year. We've been growing it for 7 years, and it's a beautiful root. We harvest roots in the spring before the plant starts to emerge above ground, or barely emerge above ground, so the energy's still in the root, or we'll harvest it in the fall. Astragalus, I do grow that. I don't harvest it until the 3rd year. They say don't harvest it until the 3rd to 5th year. Other herbalists say you can harvest it the 2nd year. And I'll be getting into that a little bit later, but astragalus is another one. It does grow on the farm. It's a legume. It's a beautiful plant. Echinacea. There's Echinacea purpura and augustifolia. We grow both of them. Echinacea, well, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Elderberry, which I do have on the farm. I don't grow it in the greenhouse. I wanted to do some cuttings and start it this year, but I didn't have time. But elderberries, so I'll spend a little time talking about it. Tulsi and holy basil. Tulsi and holy basil are the same thing. Some people know it as holy basil, others Tulsi. And then there's reishi, which you can see there's a picture at the bottom, right-hand corner, and then garlic and ginger. If I could only have, it's hard to say, if I could only have 2 herbs and I didn't have much money, and especially for the winter months, for antimicrobial, antibacterial, antiviral, I'd go with garlic and ginger. I'd, you know, grate some fresh ginger, put it in a cup, put some hot water, just maybe a couple minutes off the boil, add some honey. It is so good for you. Garlic, just press it fresh into a bowl of soup, onto some toast. Just get them in your system often. Thyme is another one. It's extremely antiviral. But I love them all. But it's so easy to get ginger and garlic. Okay, so I'm going to talk about ashwagandha. This is the plant, and there's the root. Isn't it a beautiful root? That's a couple roots I'm holding up. It's Withania somnifera. I love the Latin names. You can name your children and grandchildren and animals after these. Okay, so it's an adaptogen, an anti-inflammatory, an aphrodisiac. They say it's more an aphrodisiac for men than women, but over time it can increase your libido. It's an immunomodulator, so it's great for autoimmune disorders like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. It's one of those adaptogens that's both a sedative and a stimulant, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So the way I love how it works is there's some people that have a lot of energy, they get up and they go, 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 and they just crash at like 2 p.m. And what ashwagandha does, it smooths that energy out so you get a longer, smoother ride that lasts longer during the day. It's calming, but at the same time, it's stimulating in that it extends that energy out, but it's calming enough that you can use it for insomnia. And it's really good for women who are having insomnia with menopause. It's great for inflammation of the joints and for hypo and hyper conditions, especially hyper and hypo thyroid, because it can help balance that out. I just love ashwagandha. And it gets these little flowers. They're like with green petals, a little teeny white flower that will turn into a translucent seed that almost like a Chinese lantern with a little red berry inside. It's like one package after another, unwrapping. And inside that little red berry are these beautiful yellow seeds. It's so pretty. Here's a picture of Astragalus. Said it's a legume. It's a vetch. The Chinese really brought this to our attention. Again, it's the third. You can harvest it the second year, but if you wait the third, fourth, fifth year, you're going to get a much bigger root, and the plant medicine will be stronger. Astragalus is one of those herbs that if you take daily, it can help you prevent from getting Lyme's disease. So it's really nice that way. It also boosts the immune system. With reishi, those two have their energy together just creates a beautiful combination to support the immune system. Astragalus is also good for people who have weak lung qi. You might be prone to bronchitis, pneumonia, pleurisy. This is a really nice thing to just start taking daily to strengthen your lung qi. Now, a lot of herbalists I know, and a lot of the books I have, say once you get sick, stop taking astragalus, because especially with upper respiratory, it's going to push you further into that illness faster. So just back off. But then there's other books I have that say, no, it's going to help feed the healing. So I myself, I'll back off of it. It is, for people with autoimmune, as far as being an immunomodulator, I don't think I would overdo it because it is a little more stimulating, but a little bit can be helpful with autoimmune, but I wouldn't overdo it because it could stimulate, make your immune system perk it up a little bit where it would push you further into the autoimmune. It's great for the prevention of tumors and slowing them down. As an antioxidant and anti-aging. They call it the young person's ginseng. It's antibacterial. I think I said that. Okay, now elderberries. So I use both the berry leaf, and the flower. I make an elderberry syrup every year, and I sell a lot of it. I have my own recipe that I'd be happy to share with anybody. And elderberries are all plants, I think, are super intelligent, but I love how elderberry works. This is a really simplistic way of stating it, but the flu viruses, they need our DNA to replicate. They can't do it on their own. So they cozy up to our cell, and they have this little sharp hook, and they emit an enzyme. They burrow into our cell, get our DNA, and start replicating. Now, the elderberry syrup, if you take it in time, like at the very first sign of feeling like, you're coming down with something, you've been around someone who's sick, what it does to your body, and it dissolves those little grabbing sharp hooks off of the flu virus so it can't get inside your cell. Isn't that beautiful? So it speeds healing or prevents it. And it protects you from a lot of different types of flus. It is my flu shot. So I know the flu viruses, I'm not against them, it's your own personal choice, but they only protect you from a certain kind, depending on what vaccine, what flu shot they're making that year, where the elderberry will cover them all. I don't know about I don't consider COVID a flu. It's a virus though, and it's an intelligent virus. Some people are saying when you have COVID and there's a cytokine storm, back off elderberries, but at that point you're going to be in the hospital and sick, and you're not going to be doing elderberries. I do want to say, someone had mentioned you wanted more information about COVID and the mRNA vaccine. I do have, if you go on my website under, I think somewhere on there, you'll look in the main menu, you can pull up, I have notes from a herbalist on COVID. So there's quite a bit there. I don't know a lot about the mRNA. I was, arnica for the soreness in your arm. And pine needles, truthfully, I know that a lot of herbalists are using them. And I have a beautiful white pine tree in my yard, and I have used them in a cold season tea, which I love. But I don't really have a lot of experience with pine needles. So I wish I could give you more information on that, but that's about all I know there. So now what I do know is that some herbalists now are using elderberry leaf for COVID, but you need to dry the leaf before you tincture it. They're making a tincture out of it. You don't put the fresh leaf in alcohol, and I'll talk about tincture or extract making later, but you dry it first and then you use it. I haven't started using that yet. Well, I harvested it last year and I tinctured it fresh before I knew you needed to tincture it dry. Hi, Kitty, you're lifting your body up there. The elderflower is great. It's great for children. It's great tasting. It helps bring down a fever. It's also antiviral. So the berries are an immune stimulant, immune tonic, antibacterial, antiviral, antioxidant, a diaphoretic, and a decongestant. And the flower is an immune tonic, an antiviral, anti-inflammatory, a diaphoretic, a decongestant, and an astringent. I use the flower more for children, and the elderberry itself, I believe, is more antiviral. But the flower is great for fevers and just that icky feeling children will get when they have a cold or flu. I think I talked about elderberry enough about how it works. Here's Echinacea. I wanted to show you how beautiful it is, the symmetry inside when you cut it open. It's just exquisite. Now, they don't all look like this, but a lot of them do. But even though, nature is so chaotic, there really is a lot of order to nature, especially when you look up close. It's just mind-blowing. I wasn't talking about, this is a great pollinator plant. I use both the leaf. I use, not the leaf, excuse me. Some people are using the leaf now. I use the whole flower head. I use the petals and that bulbous thing on top with the little sharp things. It's like a flat top haircut. And then the root, but I don't use the root until the 3rd year. The energy, you're not going to get the energy in the plant till after the 3rd year. Probably a lot of you have some experience with Echinacea. Echinacea, when you dig up the root and cut it up and taste a piece, it does on your tongue. That will let you know that the medicine is there. Prickly ash does the same thing. Spilanthes does the same thing. Spilanthes will make you foam like you have rabies. You don't want to use that for small doses. But so you'll know the medicine there. Even you can see this flower I've cut in two. If I was to, take the center of that, cut a little bit, put it on my mouth and chew, I should be able to taste that buzz of that flower. We don't tincture these, but we dry them for teas. They're great in a cold season tea because it's an immune stimulant. It's going to, the thing with Echinacea, those phagocytes, the large white blood cells that increase their growth. Now, bone set, which we're not going to talk about, increases it 4 times more than Echinacea. It's another great immune stimulant. You can also use Echinacea for, I didn't know this, stomatitis. I know a lot of herbs that men use for when I was doing the notes, looking at my notes again, it's like, oh, I totally forgotten about that. You can use it for sinusitis. One way I love to use Echinacea is if you're a sore throat or strep, just to take the dropper and drop some way on the back of your throat. Depending on how strong it is, it can be intense, but there's nothing like it to knock out a sore throat. I also make a spray with Echinacea and propolis and thyme and sage and hyssop and 1 drop of peppermint essential oil. But Echinacea is great for throat issues. Let's see. Okay, I think I pretty much addressed that. And again, at the end of this section, you can ask any questions you have. So here's Tulsi. I love Tulsi. It's also called holy basil, Osminum sanctum. It's considered in India. It's an Ayurvedic herb. And the first frost will take it out, just like basil. You can use it as a culinary herb in Indian cooking and Thai cooking. It's a little bit different flavor than Thai basil. You can use it in Thai cooking. Well, I'll talk about harvesting it later. We use the aerial parts. Aerial parts means anything sticking up in the air. So we'll use like the stems too. I don't know if you can see me pointing with my finger here. If the stems aren't too hard, we'll cut them up and use them also. It's an adaptogen. It's an immunomodulator, antibacterial. It's for mild to moderate depression. It's a very uplifting herb. It's a really nice energy. Some people will have it in the morning instead of coffee because it's very uplifting, but it doesn't tax your adrenals. It's some people trying to come off coffee will use it. It's not like coffee, but over time you'll start to feel that energetic, uplifting gift of Tulsi. It's really great for people who smoke a lot of weed and are kind of burnt out and have a foggy brain. It's really helpful for that, or people who are maybe taking drugs, pharmaceuticals that make them feel sort of foggy. Let's see, it's great for situational depression, and it just gives you an overall sense of being well. It's a really beautiful herb. I had a friend who was over, and he was saying he was visiting his family in India, and he walked right into his grandmother's house with his shoes on, and she smacked him on the head with a rolled up newspaper, said, "Get back out there and take your shoes off. You just walked past holy basil. That's a sacred plant." And she likes to keep it at her door. So it's has many names, but one of them is Incomparable One. And like I said earlier, it's also considered Ayurvedic herb. It says relaxing nervine down here. So I guess I could see, because the sense of well-being, even though it's uplifting, there's some calming component to you. It doesn't jazz you up, but there's just a feeling of being well. So I'd say it would be a mild relaxing nervine. I wouldn't take it to go to sleep. I would take it more the morning, first part of the day, if you're looking for it to do that. Here's thyme. It's a wonderful herb, very antiviral, which most people don't know. So in the wintertime, just throw it in soups, throw it on eggs, just use it a lot. We use it in a cold season tea and in our throat spray. It's great as a mouthwash to gargle with it, or even a steam. If you take the dried leaves and put them in a pan of boiling water and make it, and just breathe that in, that's a wonderful way to help try to open up sinus passage and get some of those antimicrobial properties into your nasal cavities. It's great for colds and influenza. It's each year I realize how more powerful it is, because it's such a simple and common culinary herb. Okay, we're done with that section. Does anyone have any questions on these herbs I just talked about, or relating to immune support and strengthening the immune system?
I have one question about Echinacea.
Okay.
we have, are there, excuse me, how old can a plant be for it to be like too old to use the roots? Or is it okay to use it anytime beyond the 3 years?
Well, we have some in the front yard now that are going on 5 years. They're fine. I say the best way is to dig it up and taste it.
Uh-huh.
And because you'll know if Echinacea has plant medicine in it because you'll taste it on your tongue. But saying that, I also have to say we've harvested some roots that were 3 years old and 4 years old. And I've been surprised that the buzz hasn't been there like I'd hoped. But when we tinctured it and left it set for like 6 months, it really came out. So that's giving you some mixed messages, I know. But I'd say dig up the root. Like with valerian root, that root will just disappear after a while. But if you've got a nice hardy root and it's not too woody, and you open it up and look, like burdock root will get woody after a while, yellow dock root, I'd say there's some plant medicine there. That's my own personal experience. Do you have some that's old in your yard, pretty old, or around?
Yeah, it's just going on 5 years.
Oh, I'm sure it's just fine.
Okay.
I'm sure it's just fine. Now, if the leaves are coming up, so you might want to dig one up and just taste it. And if you want to get the medicine from the roots now, you should be getting that out of the ground like last week. But it's probably I would dig it up and just check it out, and then you can tincture it. And I'll talk about what tinctures are later.
Thanks, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Nancy, a couple of questions came in also. Sylvia asked, will the prolonged and high temperatures of cooking weaken the medicinal value of thyme?
That's a good question. Well, probably would be my guess. I don't know the answer to that question, Sylvia. I think with garlic, I like to put it on at the end of cooking. Thyme, I usually put in, I'll saute it in with the olive oil and the onions and that. So I don't know the answer to that, Sylvia. I'm sorry. Good question. Anyone know the answer to that? I would imagine there's still going to be healing properties there. And thyme it's kind of a harder herb. So if you cook it for a while, it's going to. So I imagine that, you pour boiling water over thyme to make a thyme tea. So I imagine that the medicinal properties are still going to be there. That's my best guess.
Great, thanks, Nancy. And then Jen also typed in, you mentioned that Astragalus root is good to help prevent Lyme's.
Right.
Does it also help to clear out old symptoms from the body?
I haven't heard of it being used in that way. I think it's more, it just makes your body so that the virus, it's not the kind of environment, it's not a weakened environment where the virus can thrive. But once the virus is in your body, there's things like teasel, Japanese knotweed. You want to use the lymphatics, which I'll talk about later. There's what's the one I'm thinking of? Sorry, it's not coming to me right now. But there are others that can help, if you've had Lyme. There's some good books out there on Lyme. Stephen Booner has a really good one. And Wolf-Dieter Storl, he's from Germany. He has a great book on Lyme. And yeah.
And Sylvia also asked about Lyme disease. What are the organs or symptoms most affected by Lyme's?
Well, it can penetrate even the brain. So people can have a lot of brain fog, and this is pretty much when you've had it for a long time. The joints, you can just feel really achy, so that it's really painful to move. Your life can change, a lot of activities. I had Lyme's once, and I got rid of it, according to my kinesiologist and chiropractor. We have to do a tick check all the time here on the farm. Things, Sylvia. Some people, their lives have been devastated by it. There's a Ani Thatcher, who's a chiropractor kinesiologist in Luck, Wisconsin. She's had really good luck working with people with Lyme's. It can even infect your eyes too, apparently, and COVID can also, apparently, because it gets you to, you touch your eyes. It's an easy way for it to enter into your body. Any other questions on that section?
Not in the chat box anyway.
Okay, we'll move on, and if when we get through this section, if someone has a question, we can go back. Okay, so now we're going to talk about herbs that lower anxiety and stress, because, well, herbal allies for these times, a big part of what people have felt is anxiety and stress, just from isolation, from losing work and financial, not knowing how they're going to pay for things, maybe going to be evicted from their apartment, from not being able to see their loved ones, maybe having a parent passed and you didn't even get to be with them, or there's just a lot of reasons why people have been feeling anxious and stressed out. And adaptogens like holy basil and ashwagandha, adaptogens can support a sense of well-being, but there's other herbs that I'll talk about that are helpful. A lot of these fall in the categories of nervines or adaptogens. Some border on nervines/sedative. So we've got Skullcap, which is a great herb, lemon balm, chamomile, milky oat seed, which is a trophal restorative. Milky oat seed is it's slow building. It's a slow building tonic, but wow, it's something if everyone could have it every day, that would be incredible. You can see in the bottom right corner is a picture of oats. It's a Venus sativa. It's the same plant that oats come from, like people would eat for breakfast. But what we do, when the seed, you squeeze it and milk pops out, that's when we harvest it, because the strong medicine for the nervous system is in the seed. So we'll go along. We have these bags connected to belts, and we go along and just strip all the seeds off, bring them in the house, put them in a blender with some brandy. We whir it up. We want to break up those hulls of those milky oat seeds, and we want that plant medicine to be exposed. And then we store jars of that on a dark shelf for a minimum of 4 weeks up to 6 months to pull the medicinal properties out. So that is something to take every day that just really supports a healthy nervous system. It's one of those that I was saying, if the nerves physically become unraveled, this can actually physically heal those. But not only that, the whole nervous system of the body. Then there's passion flower. You can see that in the right-hand corner. Those are some passion flowers from our farm. They overwinter. We take them back outside. They climb 20 feet high if we let them. But we use I'm talking about these milky oat seed, passion lavender a little bit, because it's not ones that I'm going to talk about later that are the ones I mentioned that are part of this talk. Anyway, passion flower, it is like the off button on a radio station. That circular thinking in your head, you just can't turn it off. You might lay down at night, you're dog tired, but your mind goes boing, and you're just off and running. This is the herb, especially when combined with California poppy. Now that's the picture on the top left. These two, the synergy of these two are just beautiful. It really just helps. You can feel when it starts to work. We use both of them in a good night's sleep extract. Then, like I said, California poppy, which is the state flower of California. And then there's lavender. There's ashwagandha, which we talked about. And then there's lavender. Lavender is considered a gentle nervine. We put it in some of our teas, because it can be pretty floral, but the essential oil of lavender under your nose, behind your ears. Some people will put it in a mister or those diffusers. Then there's valerian, which is more of a hard hitter, and then CBD. I will talk a little bit about CBD. We grew it on the farm. We're not growing it this year. And I've never seen any plant like it. It's, they're like Christmas trees, and they get these beautiful flowers that have crystals on them. It just says, look at me. I am fantastic. I have a lot going on, and it has over 400 active plant constituents, which is a lot for a plant. I didn't have much personal experience with CBD oil. I started trying a few knowing I was growing it. But so what I find is with CBD oil, depending on the milligrams in the bottle, like 1,000 milligrams, if you're going to use it for sleep, you want to take it an hour before bedtime, because it takes about that long to get into the body. Now, for some people, it may be less. For some, it may be a little more. I'd say start out with 5 drops or up to 10, maybe 50. And during the day, I wouldn't take more than 2 or 3 drops. You don't want to, you want to get stuff done, because it's pretty chill. It can lay you back. So it's really nice for bringing down anxiety, just a few drops during the day. But for sleep, it's really nice for a deep, restful sleep. Okay, I'm going to move on. So we're going to talk about Skullcap.
Hey, Nancy?
Yes.
We did get a question about, can you get the benefits of milky oat seed by eating oats?
Well, no. They still have a calming. We harvest the stem also, and we dry that and put it in teas, and it's calming. No, you're not going to get it. I wish I could say you could, but it's you need that fresh, milky oat, actually that liquid substance. It's like a white latex. Latex, is that the right word? Yeah, I think so. Not paint, but you know what I mean. Am I saying that? Is it latex or is it something like that? It's what's also in wild lettuce. You open it up and that white stuff pops out. Only this is different, actually. This is a sticky white milk that comes out of the seed.
Okay, and then Sylvia also asked, related to that last slide, I think, are some of these better to tincture fresh versus dried?
Okay, sure. That's a great question. Definitely milky oat seed. You're going to lose everything if you wait to dry. And also, if you grow them, you have about a week to before the milk dries up in them. So there's a short window. Passion flower, I tend to tincture almost everything fresh. We harvest it, we bring it in the commercial kitchen, we chop it up, and we get it in brandy right away, because I feel like the energetics are still there. But there are some herbs like ashwagandha. I'll tincture some fresh, but I'll also dry some and powder it, because in Ayurvedic medicine, they tend to do it in powder form. The Elecampane root, I'll dry some of it. A lot of the roots I will dry and also do them fresh. Lavender I do fresh. Poppies fresh. A skullcap, which is here, you won't get any dried. It loses most of its medicine. We'll dry a little bit and put it in tea, but you're really not getting much out of it. You definitely want to do skullcap fresh. So for the most part, we do everything fresh. There is a book by James Green. He helped start the American Herbalist Guild, and it's called I think it's the Herbal Medicine. Anyway, it's a great book on plant medicine making, and it's called the Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook, I think. He's a funny guy, but he'll list in there which plants to tincture fresh, which to tincture dry, and also the ratio, whether fresh or dry. We tend to do 1-to-1 on everything fresh, because we already know that fresh, and that means we'll fill the jar, a quart jar, almost to the top of fresh herbs, leaving like an inch or two. So when we pour the alcohol on, and I'll talk about this later, we don't want any plant material sticking out of the alcohol that could set you up for bacteria. But being that there's already water in a fresh plant, that's why we fill it so full. And with a dried plant, we just do it half full, because it's going to swell up. Skullcap is just a phenomenal nervine. You can use it during the day, during the night. It's great for panic attacks. It's great for twitching, muscular spasms. So you can use it for cramping, menstrual cramps, along with black haw and cramp bark. It's just really a nice herb, but it works powerfully well. And you want to use it fresh. It's so analgesic, that means pain relieving. That's why you can use it for cramping or even other pain in the body. And it's the same antispasmodic for twitching and muscle spasms. We use the aerial part, so including the stem. Then lemon balm. Most of you probably know lemon balm. It's
Nancy?
one of my, well, a lot of them are, yes?
Sorry, Nancy. Peggy
Okay.
asked, what's the name of the author you just mentioned? I think the guy you said that was kind of funny as well, or?
Sure, James Green.
James Green, thank you.
You're welcome. Lemon balm is also very uplifting. It's also for people who hold anxiety in their gut, their nervous system in their gut. Some people hold it in their heart, they'll get heart attacks, or it runs in the family. That's hawthorn would be great for that. Hawthorn is a great herb for the heart and for people who have been born into a family with people that have cardiovascular issues. So lemon balm is for people who hold the nervous system in their gut. Some people hold it in their, and they can get migraines because their muscles tighten down and their blood flow is impeded. But with chamomile, these two are phenomenal together as a tea. As a matter of fact, that's what I have right now. Let's see. It's great for herpes. For herpes simplex. So you can make a tea and you can place that on it with a cotton ball or a little dropper, a glass pipette. Any viral infections, really. It's not a hard hitter like elderberry, but you can certainly drink it as a tea. It's a very aromatic, and you probably know if you walk past lemon balm and you just accidentally rubbed against it, it releases its scent. It's really beautiful. Let's see. It's very, very, very calming. It can also, we put it in our good night sleep tincture because it's good for insomnia because it's relaxing. It's also, because it's so uplifting, it's good for depression. So you could have it with holy basil and lemon balm. That's a nice combination.
Nancy, Jane asked, will you be telling us how to use and prepare all the herbs you're talking about?
Yes, we'll go through that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so next is chamomile. It's a relaxing nervine, a mild sedative, antispasmodic, a carminative and aromatic digestant, which means it's good for those a nervous belly, a nervous stomach, and it's also antiviral. It's the #1 herb for IBS. So I'd recommend people with IBS to have a cup before they have their meal, just to get that in your system, down the hatch before your food comes. I've had an experience with chamomile years ago. I bought this truck. I paid, I had just enough money to buy it, and I'm out of money. The brakes went out on the freeway. Luckily, I was able to get off of the freeway and get to a gas station. My brother came and got me, and my mother was in town. We were all meeting at a restaurant. I was just shaking. I didn't want to tell them what was going on. And they had chamomile tea on the menu, and I had a cup, and it was so helpful. It just smoothed everything out. I still had the guy who sold me this lemon, which I should have known better. But anyway, it's a simple herb, but it has such nice, gentle, and I even want to say sometimes profound calming effects, because it was a profound calming effect for me at that time. It's great for baby's first bath. You can mix it with a few rose petals and a little bit of lavender, a little bit of calendula, just a cup of that tea in a baby's first bath. It's very healing for the skin. It's nice to use it with chamomile. Styes on the eyes. You can get a tea bag hot and just lay it on your eye for the puffiness. Great for colic for a baby. Also, catnip is great for colic with the baby, the two of them. You can just make a tea and put a couple drops in their mouth. Okay, move on. So that was our section on that are good for stress and anxiety. So does anyone have any questions around that or pertaining to? There's other herbs too. like blue vervain, agrimony, hops. There's wood betony, which is another beautiful plant.
I don't see any questions in the chat box, but folks,
Okay.
you can also feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question.
Otherwise, I'm going to move on, and then people can just, if you have a question, just ask, let Mike know. Okay, these are herbs that move lymph. So the lymphatic system, it's like the garbage disposal of our body. It's going to instruct where those toxins need to go, what organs, so that they can carry them out of the body. So when a virus is dying off, a bacteria is dying off, you want to get them out of the body. So you want to keep your lymph moving. There are herbs that are called lymphatics that will help assist in this process. The lymph system is really close to the surface of the body. Maybe some of you have had a lymphatic massage before, but most of your lymph is around your armpits and your groin area. So you always want to move to where the lymph is. You know, there's a lot of fatty tissue in their breasts, and toxins love to store in the fatty tissue, like your liver and your breasts. So you could do a lymphatic massage on your breast if you have mastitis and then doing lymphatics. Sometimes, you know, you can use I'm getting off the subject here, but since I'm talking about mastitis, you can use a cabbage leaf. You can use grated raw potato with a hot pack on it. You can use, anyway, those are two great things to use. So the lymphatic system, movement is important. Movement moves your lymphatic system. Walking, biking, dancing, you know, so coming out of winter, a lot of people are more stagnant. So their lymph is kind of boggy, you know, you might be your liver is kind of congested. So spring is a wonderful time to have lymphatics. Or if you find you're just getting sick all the time, you're probably toxic, you want to get that lymph moving. So we're going to go back. So here's some lymphatic herbs: Astragalus, calendula, which calendula is in the top right corner. Calendula is a wonderful plant to move the lymph. Also, it's very healing for ulcers. I like to use it with marshmallow, comfrey leaf, meadowsweet, chamomile. They're all good for healing the GI tract of ulcers. Also, calendula makes a wonderful oil. If we have time, I'll talk about making oils. Echinacea moves the lymph. That's why in our winter wellness tincture, we put echinacea in there, not only because it's an immune stimulant, but it can help move that dying off virus out of the body. Baptisia, cleavers we're harvesting right now. Those are the two pictures on the left-hand side. It's also called bed straw. I could be giving you the Latin names. This is Gallium aperrine. The name for Latin names is that the common names of plants are different all over the world. So the Latin name makes sure that you have that plant. Bed straw will stick together. It's really sticky. Now is a great time to start harvesting it. Excuse me, I said bed straw, cleavers, the same thing. Cleavers is one of the #1 herbs to move the lymph. It's so we're harvesting it right now, tincturing it and drying it for a tea also. Red clover is another herb that moves lymph. And then red root, which is also New Jersey tea, also called New Jersey tea. I'm going to move on.
Nancy, excuse me, Peggy did ask what are the medicinal properties of hyssop, if you want to address that or not right now.
Sure. Well, hyssop is really a Hyssop officinalis. There's an anise hyssop, which is Augustaceae foliculum, but Hyssop officinalis, mostly I know it to the two ways I use it are for colds and coughs. We are going to be talking about it actually, really for kind of a hacking cough. There's a lot of expectorants that you can use for coughs, and hyssop is one of them. It's also kind of good for settling the stomach. A hyssop is kind of digestive in a way. It's a great pollinator plant. The bees love it. But we'll talk about that a little later. Any questions about the herbs that help move the lymph? So, and herbal allies for these times, if you think about if you were to get COVID, you want to keep that lymph moving. So I'd really recommend doing a tea or an extract that has some of these lymphatics in them. On top of trying to stay well with the adaptogens and then keeping your stress level low by having some herbal teas or herbal extracts. The liver, I'm not addressing it so much, but if the liver's congested, you want to clean the lymph. But there's herbs for the liver, and coming out of winter, in the spring, liver and the large intestine are the main organs we're working with, and you're looking at yellow dock root, burdock root, dandelion root. There's milk thistle, which I've grown before. I'll never grow again because you need steel gloves to penetrate those big spikes to get to the seed. But it's an impressive plant that the butterflies love, the swallowtails love it. Okay, now I'm going to talk about naturally lowering fevers. So,
Nancy,
a
excuse me.
fever is, yes,
Sorry, Nikki
sure.
wrote in, what are the herbs for the liver?
Okay, burdock root, dandelion root, yellow dock root, milk thistle seed. There's others too. Those are the 4 main ones that I like to use. Right now we have a liver elixir where we send a organic apple cider vinegar with the mother. We throw a little chicory in, a little cinnamon. We let that bathe for a couple months, then press it out, and we add some raw honey to it. It's getting a little late to dig up roots, but if there's just a little bit of plant sticking out of the top, you can dig them up, because once the green starts to appear and it reaches for the sky, the energy moves up with it. So the energy is leaving the root. So just, some of the burdock might be really small, like our Astragalus. We dug a few up the other day because it was just barely peeking the green leaves. And it was really a nice, beautiful roots. Okay, so naturally lowering fevers. Fever is an intelligent way the body has to raise the body temperature to kill off bacteria or virus. So you don't automatically want to just lower a fever. It's the body trying to do what it does to keep homeostasis and to fight off the illness. It's a natural response, a natural healthy response. There are times when you want to address a fever, and I have here, you can read, a child has a fever of 104, they appear dehydrated, they cry continuously. A decrease in urine would be another good way to measure that. They have trouble breathing, of course, hard to awaken, of course. And if they're under 3 months and it's over 100.4, that's another thing to consider lowering. Stiff neck, really just wiped out, a lethargic, a seizure, of course, diarrhea, dilated pupils. You've had the fever for more than 3 days. You seem confused or delirious, so you start vomiting. Then these are the herbs that are great. Sometimes you just have to go to the doctor. Antibiotics really mess with the gut biome. Oh, I skipped that. I skipped something at the beginning. I'll go back to it in a minute. The gut biome is huge. Some people say it's our true body's immune system. Antibiotics have been overused for years now, and little children, their gut biomes, they're suffering, and adults' gut biomes are suffering. So you want to replenish that with prebiotics and probiotics, kimchi, fermented foods, sauerkraut, prebiotics. I'll address a little bit of that later. I must have skipped over that slide. I think I did. Yeah, it's really important for your gut biome. The mushrooms, they're prebiotics, like lion's mane, shiitake, even portobello. They're all prebiotics that can help feed the good bacteria to build your gut biome. Besides, you can take a nice probiotic in the billions. They're expensive to take a really good one. But if you make your own kombucha, and you make your own kimchi, the ones homemade at home, your own ferments, they have a lot of probiotics in them. As a matter of fact, I have some mother from a burdock. I have a couple mothers. If anyone comes to the plant sale on Saturday, wants a mother from burdock to make kimchi, I'd be happy to share some of those. So getting back to herbs that naturally lower a fever, we're looking at bone set. I don't know how many of you know about bone set. It likes to grow where blue vervain grows and Joe Pye grows, and more of a moist area. I can grow it in the lower part of my land where it's more moist, where it goes downhill and so the water flows. Catnip is great for bringing down a fever. Echinacea too, it's not as powerful as catnip, bone set, or elderflower. Lemon balm too can help bring it down, but the top ones are bone set, catnip, elderflower, and yarrow. Bone set, it's called bone break fever. Most people think it's to heal broken bones, and the Native Americans did use it that way. And so there is some truth to that. But it's when you get those achy chills, you know, your whole body aches and you have a fever, it just breaks that. So these are 3 herbs. And I'd recommend, they're almost all bitter. Yarrow and bone set and catnip are all bitter. But what they do, they help open up the pores so you can release heat. Which is a great way to do it. Some people say get in a hot bath. You can do that too. But they're pretty bitter, so it's just sips of it, what you can tolerate. So with COVID, you know, I mean, that's, people get a fever that comes and goes and comes and goes and comes and goes with some people. It's the body trying to fight that infection off. You know, I'd say one of your best bets is to have a healthy gut biome and to eat a nutrient-dense diet. You know, if you're not, even organic farms, the soil is so depleted, even though people keep trying to rebuild with cover crops. Anytime you turn that soil over, we're breaking up microbes, we're breaking up nutrients. So even if you have a great diet, a lot of times you need to supplement, even just vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin zinc is great. They're saying all those are good for supporting your body to be less apt to be affected by COVID. Okay, now we're going to wet dry coughs, and I can't see the other word, lung issues. Something's covering it up on the top of my screen. So there's all kinds of coughs, some that are up high, some that are mid-chest, and some that are lower. So when I'm wondering what kind of herb to give a person, and maybe we're talking on the phone, I'll say, let me hear you cough. And they'll go, oh, I don't have to. And I said, well, just do a fake cough. Because you can tell if it's coming from down low. You know, it's more of a deeper bark, and you can tell when it's mid or it's up high. So that's one thing to look at, because there's expectorants that address deep lung issues that are heavier hitters, expectorants that will go deeper down into the lungs, and there's ones that will address coughs that are up higher. These pictures I have here are Hyssop. Someone had asked about Hyssop, and I will talk about that later. And then there's Mullein. That's the first year Mullein. The second year gets a tall stalk on it with little yellow flowers, and the flowers are used as an ear oil for ear infections with garlic and St. John's wort. But it's just a fuzzy, beautiful plant. We use the leaves. They're both expectorant, both the Hyssop and Mullein. Okay, so an expectorant, again, helps the body remove mucus from the lungs. And a demulcent is something it's real mucilaginous, real slippery, like a marshmallow root. When we dig it up and we cut it and we're going to tincture it, it is so slippery, you got to be careful that you don't cut yourself. Now, when you make an extract of marshmallow, it is thick like mucus, like snot. So if we combine that in an extract with other herbs, it just floats around like a blob. So it kind of grosses people out. So we tend to keep that extract all by itself. But marshmallow root, I'll talk about marshmallow. I'll get there in just a second, and I'll talk about it more. But anyway, other demulcents, there's marshmallow and licorice. They're very soothing, very softening, very coating and calming. I should say calming for the soreness that's there in the throat or the GI tract. Licorice is contraindicated with blood pressure medicine that lowers potassium, things like warfarin or Coumadin. So on the expectorants, we have mullein leaves. That's for a dry cough, not a wet cough. It's a dry cough, and it will encourage mucus to be released from the lungs. You can use it for the whole respiratory tract, all the way down to the bottom of the lungs. There's hyssop. You can use that all the way down to the bottom of the lungs. It helps to loosen and bring it up and out. It's not a hard hitter like Elecampane is, or Pleurisy Root, or mullein. I think the best one is Osha, which is also known as bear root. It doesn't grow here, and it's kind of endangered. But Osha is what a lot of, I was able to get some from out. It's one of the ones that I definitely would recommend for COVID, because what you don't want to happen if COVID is affecting your respiratory system, you do not want that mucus to harden and get lodged in the deep lobes of your lungs. So Osha keeps that coming up and out, up and out, up and out. Now, Pleurisy Root and Elecampane can do the same thing. Elecampane's for a wet cough. You know, it's just loose, and it also can be old catarrh. It gets that up and out. It's a great expectorant. Also, when we dig it up in the fall is when we dig up roots. The bees' source of food is dwindling. If we dig that up and it's a warm day and the bees are out, we can't touch it. They claim it. And so we dig that up either in the morning or later in the day when the bees have gone back to bed. I mean, we don't dig it up then, but we hose it down then. We hose the dirt out of it then, because they're like, this is ours, and we're going to sting you if you come by it. So just know that about Elecampane. It's kind of beautiful that it's a food source for them at that point. It must be the moisture they're taking off the root, but they're so attracted to the scent. It's a really strong, beautiful smelling scent. It is contraindicated for breastfeeding and pregnant women. Osha is also. I didn't mention Osha here just because it's over harvested, and but it's kind of you can still buy it. You can still buy it like Present Moment Herbs, and you can buy it online, tinctured. Next is Pleurisy Root. It got its common name because it's good for pleurisy, which affects the lungs. So for people who are prone to bronchitis, pneumonia, pleurisy, these are 3 herbs that at the very first sign, even if you're prone to those and you get a cold and it's just in the, up in the upper respiratory tract, I would start on Pleurisy Root, because for you, it's probably going to drop down, and I'd want to get ahead of it. Pneumonia is nothing to mess around with. So there are times you just need to go to the doctor, just need to take antibiotics, because pneumonia can really put you down, and you can get in trouble with it. Just make sure when you're taking probiotics that you're also feeding your gut with good, healthy probiotics. Some doctors say, nah, just wait till it's over, but I disagree. I think take it. You take probiotics, it's going to destroy your good gut flora, your bad gut flora. Keep replenishing it. That's my thinking around it. Pleurisy Root is contraindicated with digoxin, which comes from the foxglove plant. Okay, so here's the picture of Elecampane. Can you see me? I'm in there. My head is in there. So that's how tall these Elecampane can get. They say in the book they only get 4 feet tall. Well, I beg to differ. They get taller. It's a beautiful, fun plant. It's the root that we use. Again, we dig it up in the spring or the fall when the energy is still down in the plant. We already dug some up this year. It's called the Roto-Rooter of Expectorants. It's because it's really good at getting down there and dislodging that mucus and getting it up and out. You want to stay hydrated too. You want to stay hydrated all the time, but especially when you have a cold, when you have a fever. It's good for bronchial infections. Again, it's for wet chronic coughs, or just it can be an acute wet cough too. And it also helps to fight infection. It's very antimicrobial. And it's a stimulating expectorant because it really that mucus to get it up and out. It gets a lot of those flowers on them, and those flowers are probably anywhere from 4 to 8 inches across. Again, avoid if you're pregnant or breastfeeding. Here's Marshmallow. The original marshmallows were made out of marshmallow. I was telling you how mucilaginous and sticky that root is. Well, it was in the original ingredients. And it's a beautiful, I don't know if you can tell, but if you've ever touched marshmallow leaf, you just want to pet it. It's like velvet. It's a doctrine of signature. It's what a plant looks like. It can indicate what it's good for. It's softening. Those leaves are so soft. And we use the leaf, we use the flower, and we use the root. So we harvest the leaves and the flowers all summer long. Well, I'd say we don't start until they start to flower. And then, they can get pretty tall too. They could get taller than me. They can get as tall as an Elecampane. They'll just keep growing. And I'd say the first year they probably get about 2 to 3 feet tall. The second year, if you don't harvest the root, they'll get taller, 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 till they can get up to 6 feet tall. You can also dig up Elecampane and marshmallow, just chop half of that root off, take that for metas, and then plant the rest of that root back in the ground, and that plant will keep growing the next year. So marshmallow is for a dry cough because it's so softening, so mucilaginous, and it's good for a sore throat. It also stimulates the immune system to get well. It's very nutritive. It's minerally rich. The best way to take marshmallow root is in a cold infusion. So that means you dry the root. There's some great cheap dehydrators out there. So you harvest the root, chop it up. What we'll do, I have a Vitamix. I'll put it in the Vitamix. That'll make it smaller. We'll put it in the dehydrator. Roots we tend to put in the dehydrator, not in the drying room in our commercial kitchen, because they just take forever and we don't want them to mold. After we put them in the Vitamix, then we'll put them in the dehydrator. Then if we want to make a tea, we'll put them in a jar. Say for a quart jar, maybe I'd add half a cup of root, maybe a quarter cup. Pour cold water over that, let that set overnight. Shake it a few times. You can even do it in the morning, have it that night, or drink it the next morning. When you pour that off, it's going to pour kind of like liquid velvet. It's really, so even the water, it softens everything. It pulls that mucilage out. We make a tea out of the leaves and the flower, but we also make an extract out of them. The extract of the flower and the leaves doesn't get that thick that globby, like mucusy kind of extract. So it mixes well with all the other extracts. It just doesn't float around there like a blob. I hate to talk about that plant that way. It's a beautiful plant. It's not a blob, but you know what I mean.
Nancy, just to interrupt briefly, it's a time check. It's about 5 to 8, just in terms of.
Oh my gosh! Whoa! Wow! I was off. Okay. All right.
I mean, I imagine some people can stay a little longer, but I just wanted to give you that heads up.
Sure. Let me look here. Okay, we're gonna. We can blow through this because now we're just going to talk about planting after this one. Okay, Pleurisy Root. Again, well, you're going to get these PowerPoints. So even if we don't get through it, you'll have information. It's another one of those, it's a deep lung expectorant. But if you're prone to bronchial infections, start that even when it's up higher, even when you just start to get a respiratory issue. Okay, so how to use them in daily life? Ashwagandha daily. I do it, I would take it every day, ashwagandha root. This tells you about the planting of it. You want to, when you harvest it, it's in the fall. We usually do it in October. I'm not going to tell you how to plant it because all that info is here. But you want to hose it down. We sometimes have to chop the roots several times because they intertwine and they get little pebbles and dirt. So we just put something on our hose outside that's got a nice high pressure to it, and we hose it down with that. Astragalus, the same thing. We dig it up and we hose it down. We cut it into small pieces and we tincture that. Some of it, you can buy astragalus dry and people cook it in soups. And great in a bone broth. It's great. I would take astragalus every day too, especially if you have lung issues and you're prone to bronchial infections. With reishi, again, the two of them are phenomenal to build a strong immune system. Back off the astragalus though if you start to get sick. And then as soon as you're well, you can start taking it again. Echinacea, again, we use the flower that we can dry for tea. We don't tincture that. I don't think the medicine is strong enough to tincture it, and it's a beautiful use in a tea. Again, hose down the root really, really well. We use the root, we just use the root in extracts or tinctures. Tulsi and holy basil, we tincture those fresh. We also hang them upside down and dry them. I'll talk about drying in just a minute. And dry those for teas. We tend to do a double extraction if it's a fresh holy basil we're tincturing, because if you dry the tincture, we tend to just, well, so what that means is, I'll tell you what it means in a minute. But we make a tea out of them, and then we also make an extract out of them. And it tells companion plants to plant them with. Then we have skullcap. It's the aerial parts we harvest. We harvest it all during the summer. We wait till it starts to get a little flower on it, and we'll cut it. It'll grow again, and we'll cut it. We'll probably give it 3 cuts during the summer. We take it immediately into the commercial kitchen, chop it up. We do not wash our herbs before we put them in extracts or tinctures. The FDA says I have to use the word extracts now, but some people know I love the word tincture. Fresh is when you're going to get the most medicine out of it. So we do that right away. We don't let plants just setting out in the field. We bring them in and we're going right away. Lemon balm, you can dry it for a tea. You can make a tincture. Chamomile, it's just the flowers. They're tricky to dry. We do an extract of them, but we also make a tincture. You think they're dry, you'll put them in a jar. You'll look a few days later, it may be fuzzy. They're very, very tricky. A way to tell if a plant is dry, make sure your lips are dry, break it open at the very deepest center and rub it on your lip. If you detect any moisture at all, that means that it's not dry. So put it back. And I'll talk about ways you can dry it in just a minute. So chamomile, even if if you do harvest it and put it in a jar, check it a couple days later just for moisture. Sometimes we'll stick a paper towel in there. Elecampane, again, is the roots we're using. So the same as with ashwagandha and with Astragalus. And I have down here Bees Love perfume. I don't know how that, oh yeah, that's right. Never mind, I talked about that. Marshmallow, again, I talked about harvesting the leaves and the flowers already. This just gives you planting information. Same with Pleurisy Root. But again, there's some companion planting parts there. Here's some pictures of us harvesting on the farm. It's always fun when we try to, to bring in all the harvest and to try to get it all loaded up and, get back before the 10 seconds are up on the camera. So harvesting, you want to harvest in the morning. There's dew on the plants. So you don't really want to harvest them then. You want to wait till the sun comes and dries the dew, because then if you take them, you try to dry them, mold can set up. After rain, also you want to let them dry out. Some plants like Tulsi that grow low to the ground, if you don't mulch heavily between the plants, you're going to get some splashbacks. You're going to get mud on the bottom of the plants. So we harvest above that. We always harvest above the splash. You can use stainless steel pruners or your hands. I used to get the green piskers thinking, oh, it's natural, the green. You can never find them when you set them down. So now I get pink, I get purple, I get as bright colored as I can. You probably won't need a chamomile rake, but if you're growing a lot of chamomile, the chamomile rake is nice to have. You keep harvesting chamomile, would keep coming every day. Same with calendula. A lot of these plants you can harvest a lot. Don't wait till the end of the season. With Tulsi, once it starts to flower, it signals to the plant that its life is almost over and it's going to bolt. Same with, let's see, what other ones? Lemon balm, and the mints. You can harvest those flowers, but you can start harvesting once the leaves, once it's 6-8 inches, you can take a little of the top off. It'll keep growing, so you can harvest all summer long. It depends upon the plant, of course. Like roots, no. Let's see. You don't want to let your harvest set out in the sun, bring it in, because that sun's going to start to diminish some of the medicinal properties. Let's see. Okay. So drying your herbs. We have a drying room now with, in the bottom, that's our old drying room, but now we have a commercial kitchen / drying room, but it's racks like these. You can use something as simple as something you dry your clothes on, clothes drying rack. You can get really creative. You want to dry them out of direct sunlight, away from a heat source. It's nice if you can have a fan so you have air circulating. If they're on newspaper or they're on screens, you might want to turn them. We keep a dehumidifier running 24/7 in where the herbs are drying. That helps. So usually you can ask me questions. See, I'll be done here in a minute, so I can ask some questions. If plants are dried properly, flowers, they should have almost the same color as when you picked them. And if not, you've over-dried them. But there'll still be some properties in them, but the more the color looks like when you picked them, the more viable they are, the more plant medicine there's in them. Now here's garbling. This is where you strip the plants and the leaves off the stem after they're dry. And then you can take and you can break them up into smaller pieces, put them in a jar for teas. We store ours in glass gallon jars. You got to be careful you don't bang them together, because we've had that happen and break, and then all that we've lost everything. You can also store them, well, I hate to store anything in plastic, but that's what a lot of people are doing. And you can get if you get plastic, there's some nice thicker plastic out there somewhere, I'm sure. Okay, so plant medicine, making an extract with fresh plant. I think I talked about it. We tend to fill it almost to the top, maybe leave 2 inches, and then we pour alcohol over it. I use brandy. It's 80 proof, 4% alcohol. A lot of people will use a higher percentage. I do with resins like bee propolis. I do with nettles. The best way to do nettles is to eat them fresh or in a tea. Those 2 ways. You need 90 proof alcohol. You're not going to pull the minerals out of nettles otherwise. Let's see, I use it with my mushrooms. I do dual extractions of mushrooms. I use 90 proof alcohol. Otherwise, I'm using 40%. A lot of herbalists you have to figure out what works for you. Some people, okay, anyway. And if you're using dried plant material or roots, we only fill it half full when we make an extract. So what you want to do, you want to label that jar, the date, the name of the plant, and then you want to store it away from heat and out of sunlight. So we have ours on shelves and with curtains. And then we shake them, usually a couple times a week. And then the soonest we'll press them out is 4 weeks. We usually leave them in 2 to 4 months, sometimes even a year, because we don't need them. And there's no harm done to leave them in there. But when you do press them out, you can use a cheesecloth, you can use a potato ricer. You can, I have a tincture press, which is really nice. Okay, I'm going to move on. So, and I think I talked about all that there. Okay, here's some recommended reading. Oh, I do have the Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook by James Green. These are 3 books I just love. There's a lot of great books out there. But I want to end talking now so you can ask me questions, because let's see, how much time do we have? Oh, we're past time. Sorry. Anyone have any questions? I'm sorry if I lost some people.
That's all right, Nancy. Glad you could get through it. And if folks have questions, feel free to unmute yourself or type it in. We can take a few minutes for questions.
I want to say too, there's a plant sale on the farm this Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. I'll also, please go ahead.
What's your address again?
1237 35th Avenue, Amory, but it's on the website. It's on my website. It's at redcloverapothecary.com. I think that info, Mike's going to get this PowerPoint to you. So my info should be on there at the very beginning of it.
Yeah.
It might be, I don't know when you'll get it to him. It might be after the plant sale. I'm not sure.
Well, I typed in the address there, and I also provided your website a bit ago, but it's both Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 3.
Right. And we're going to move some of the apothecary into the commercial kitchen. So if people want to buy plant products, we'll have some of that.
Do you take interns? Nikki wants to know.
Well, yes, I mean, paid interns. Legally, you can't have someone work on the farm and make a profit without paying people. Yes, so I have 2 women this year. They're both part-time. But every year, yes, I hire somebody. Yeah. I mean, it's great to work on the farm because you learn from the ground up. We seed save, we germinate, you know, we make the medicine, we bottle it, we label it, we take it to market. So it's the whole shebang. And you get to learn about the plants while we're, you know, working with them. Yeah.
Nancy, which farmers markets are you going to be at this summer? Do you know yet?
Yeah, I'm at Mill City and I'm at Kingfield. So if you go on my website, it'll list all my market dates.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you everybody so much. Sorry it went over. You probably had questions. You can always email me questions if you didn't get a chance to ask me, and I'll try to get back to you in a timely manner. It's kind of a busy week on the farm, but especially if it's a short answer, I'll get back to you quickly. So love and peace to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nancy.
You're welcome. Thank you. Great to see you, everybody.
Yeah, Nancy, folks are typing in their thank you as well. So thank you everybody for joining us, and hope to see you in a farm table class soon. And please do visit Nancy this weekend at her plant sale. And Nancy, thank you for all the time you put into this. And I
Yeah,
hope
no problem, Mike. I'm happy to.
All
Bye,
right.
Kathy. Bye, Jen.
Thank you, Nancy. It
You're
was
welcome.
great. It was
Bye.
really great. See you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, Jen.